Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, and I'm joined today by Aidan Macdonald at Aidan C. Macdonald on the Twitter handle. How are you, Aidan? It's not a happy Monday, as they say. Been used to happy Mondays, but Kilmarnock won, Celtic nil. Celtic bow out of the League Cup at the first hurdle for the first time in, I think it was 10 years that they failed to reach the quarter-final stage.
I think
So,
it was
yeah.
2020, Tony, when they get knocked out by Ross County.
Oh, is that right? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, at
Okay.
home, man. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good overall. Not a great result, of course. That's probably putting it mildly. I know you and Ryan have already dissected it yesterday. You, of course, were at the game as well. But yeah, there's still some things to get into, isn't there? Which is probably the
Yeah.
understatement of the century.
Yeah. I know Ross County knocked them out in 2020. I was making the point it was the first time they'd failed to reach the quarter-finals in 10 years, I believe, and Celtic have won, is it 7 of the last 9 League Cups? Read into that what you will. Brendan Rodgers, 100% record is shattered as well. 7 out of 7 trophies from the first time round. It's not going to be 8 out of 8 or a treble this year for Celtic. Yeah, myself and Ryan came on last night. Yep, difficult one, Aidan, but you have to move on and you can pour over it as much as you want. The bottom line is Celtic were outfought, and Kilmarnock were a hungrier team on the day.
Yep, pretty much. that pretty much sums it up, to be honest. Celtic could have probably played to midnight, as the old adage goes, and still not scored. Really disappointing performance from the players. I think disappointing tactically from the manager as well, as I'm sure we will come on to maybe discuss in a wee bit more detail. And it also kind of calls into question maybe other decisions that have been made across the sort of last couple of months since Ben Rodgers came back in terms of recruitment, etc., Tony, and how that's maybe going to play into hopefully the last 2 weeks or so of the transfer window. Well, 10, 11 days, depending how you want to look at it. But yeah, it wasn't great, and hopefully it's a wake-up call. Not that you should
Yeah,
need it, of course, but hopefully it's a wake-up call.
no, the manager said he needs quality, didn't he? In his presser yesterday. He said the team needs match winners, it needs quality. I think lots of Celtic supporters were shouting at the telly at that point, we'll go out and sign match winners and sign quality. They do face a massive 10, 11 days in the rest of the August transfer window. You know, I remember at the time saying I didn't read too much into the 30 million. I hate the use of the word war chest, but we'll call it that. In the summer, I said Celtic will spend what they spend. But you know, how does anybody really know what figures they're putting on it? And I said they will do what's required. I think everybody can see that Celtic do need players, Aidan, and I think it's the usual that they're going to bang on about a goalkeeper, a left back, an enforcer, or a ball playing midfielder, and possibly another centre forward. That's
I
the kind
think
of spine of the team that I think really does need looked at before the end of the August transfer window.
I think our winging as well, Tony, is very apparent that they've
Yeah,
not.
was
And I know
Jota.
we've discussed previously, you maybe can't replace every single attribute that Jota's got, but you can definitely bring somebody in that can hopefully try and, you know, at least get some more numbers to what he had in the last 2 seasons at Celtic, and the fact that's not been done despite the club getting, I know there was 25 million came in, Benfica had a significant sort of sell-on fee from that, but the club's still taking in a lot of money last year for the Champions League, money this summer. This season will be coming in from the Champions League again, and that's even if you don't win any group stage games, you're still getting plenty of income there. So I think the fact that they've not invested in a replacement by Jota this far in at the window is pretty disappointing. You know, I feel we've been banging on about it. It has been once now, really, hasn't it? Because was it June he left or just the start of July? Regardless,
Yep.
it all moved very quickly. There's been so much so that it looks like he already might be leaving the Saudi club, but that's a separate discussion. But yeah, I think overall more work's got to be done in the transfer window, and unfortunately, there's a lot of good recruitment is going to have to be condensed into the last 10 or 11 days so Celtic can actually come out the transfer window saying that the squad isn't weaker overall.
Yeah, I think you look at the squad and it has been significantly weakened. Jota's left, Moyes retired, Starfelt's gone. You were bedding in a new defence there as well yesterday. But yeah, I think you can draw your own conclusions from it. Celtic have been significantly weakened and not strengthened as much as they would like thus far. But I think the manager's very aware of that. It was just the kind of lack of cohesion yesterday that got, I think, most Celtic supporters, Aidan. There didn't really seem to be a game plan, did they? And I know they're transitioning, and I made the point yesterday that the template, the successful, very highly successful template under Ange for the past 2 years, where the players knew that system inside out and went out and did it, has been ripped up because it's not the way Brendan Rodgers plays. That's fine, but if they are transitioning, then it's taken a while for the message to get across. And whilst they defeated Ross County and Aberdeen, lots of people weren't entirely convinced by it. It's a kind of slow start, wasn't it, to the season? Although they won both games, people say they saw it coming. That's fair enough. But I just think Kilmarnock wanted it more yesterday. And I think that says it all about Celtic's performance. Abysmal, abject. We used all those words last night on the briefing. It was pretty dire stuff, wasn't it? And I hear all this that there's a meltdown and fans feel entitled. I don't subscribe to the notion that fans are entitled to anything. Players have to earn the right to win a football match. Celtic didn't do that yesterday, but I think the supporters that are there are entitled to see a Celtic team that cost lots of millions to construct, do the basics and perform the basics right, and that's pass the ball to their teammates and fashion chances against a Kilmarnock team who, as I say, executed their game plan superbly. And I tipped my cap to them last night, and I'll do it again, who were worthy of the win. Celtic got what they deserved yesterday out of that game. Nothing. And too many people were looking around for inspiration from others and willing to let others take the mantle and not grab the game by the scruff of the neck. I say there's a lack of leadership. This is a treble win. 8 of that side starting 11 yesterday were in the treble winning team last year. So, they are winners. They are match winners. So what happened yesterday? That's the inquest. And I don't think that's entitlement. I just think you're entitled to ask questions as to how it went so badly.
Absolutely, Tony. I think the thing is that nobody's saying that you should be able to turn up and win a
Aidan,
treble.
my dogs are going mental. Give me a second. I think somebody's chapped my door.
All right, no hurries.
Be back. Sorry.
No, it's okay. As kind of Tony and I were discussing there, guys, I think it's fair enough to say it's not fans should expect to win a treble every year. Of course not, and maybe it's became sort of the norm over recent seasons, but it's still a difficult thing to do. But I think as much as that is the case, and Brendan Rodgers obviously kind of touched on that, and Callum McGregor, I think, in their post-match interviews, that isn't really an excuse for getting knocked out the first round of the cup. And just because maybe we didn't think or we don't expect to win a treble, that's kind of not a valid reason to then drop out the first time I ask. And obviously the 2 games so far this season, the competitive matches at home to Ross County and home to Aberdeen, good results, but I think the performances were a bit lacking. And then obviously the performance took a complete nosedive yesterday. So there's obviously a lot for Brendan Rodgers and the management staff and the players to think about between now and Saturday against St Johnstone. But I think the performances really need to improve, as do as does the recruitment really and the transfer window. There's obviously plenty at stake now. There's one domestic cup away. Celtic really need to make sure that they're positioning themselves well to win the league again, obviously, which the automatic Champions League qualification that would come from that. Currently 3 points clear, early days obviously, but it's been a relatively positive start league-wise. The benefit of Rangers also losing to Kilmarnock, but more work and more TLC will need to be done to the squad so that things do develop come the Champions League group stages, because at the moment the squad and the club do feel pretty underprepared for that level of football, which I am sure Tony will agree with. We're just saying there, Tony, that as much as once again, you can't expect to win a treble. That's fine. And Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor both touched on that in a post-match press conference. But at the same time, fans are entitled to be upset at going out at the first time asking in the cup. If you lose a cup final, as with it is, you've maybe won 3 or 4 games to get there. It's a big occasion, etc. But as much, I think, and I'm not saying the managers or the players were saying this as an excuse, but also it is not an excuse just because you can't expect to maybe win a treble every year to just go out at the first time asking. In the League Cup.
No, that starting 11 should have been capable of beating Kilmarnock yesterday. End of. It's cost a lot of money to assemble, but and I hate this word entitled because it gets thrown about as a kind of stick to beat people with. But I think fans are entitled to ask questions about that abject and inept display. Isn't that what you do as a supporter? When you pay your money and stuff like that, you're entitled to your opinions and entitled to say ask what went wrong. From the manager down yesterday, it was just woeful. The manager has to take his share and brunt of the responsibility as well. It wasn't happening in the first half, and then he proceeds to tell you in his after-match press conference that he liked the look of Yang when he came on. But so why not? And I asked him, why didn't you start Yang then? Because I felt that Yang did enough in recent games to merit a start. It wasn't happening for Abad and Maida yesterday. You could have clearly hooked either of them at half time. Yet he brought Yang on, 20 odd minutes to go? I don't know, was it? Something like that. That's kind of thrown him on in hope that he'll turn the game. Why not give him a whole half and see how influential he can be? And then on a day when nobody get past marks, the manager kind of singles him out as somebody that, when they came on, got a bit of impetus there. Very sorry about the dogs there, despite the beware the dog sign on the gate. Delivery drivers and postmen still proceed to come in to the garden and upset 4 dogs. So I don't for life me understand the logic in that either, but I'm entitled to ask questions why they keep doing that. But there you go. We'll leave that there. But I just thought yesterday was just poor from start to finish. From the minute home missed out Kyogo with what I thought was a slide rule ball across the goal, and then Kyogo's on the slide and stuck it wide, it just went utterly downhill from there. The one kind of move where they kind of carved Kilmarnock open, and it was very early in the game. That goes in, it could be different, but it didn't go in, and it didn't go in because there was a sloppy end product at the end of it. And I saw sloppy end products all day, Aidan. The passing was diabolical. There was no ball retention, just seemed to be no real method or rhythm or style to Celtic yesterday, which was more disappointing than anything.
Yeah, it was really, really frustrating, Tony. And obviously, you don't want to go in on the team too much, but criticism is valid after a result like that. And I think maybe some concerns that fans might have had before Brendan Rodgers came back was that at times the style of play near the end of his last spell, as much as it was very successful, after maybe the Invincible treble or even the double treble season, that third campaign, even though actually before he left the club, he went on a good run domestically in terms of wins. I think he won like 9 out of his last 10 games or something like that before leaving in 2019. Some of the football in that time wasn't the best to watch. A lot of side-to-sides passing, struggling to break down a low block. And I think we kind of discussed when he was first getting linked back in June, and then when they joined, before pre-season type thing, before we had a chance to actually see the team set up, how there was probably going to need to be some tactical tweaks to how Rodgers was doing things, and hopefully that would be the case after he'd spent time at Leicester. And as much as it didn't end well there overall, it was a successful period. Competing against the best managers and the best players will only improve your coaching ability and tactics. And I've got no doubt that Brendan Rodgers is still a phenomenal manager, a really great tactician, but I'm starting to wonder if maybe there should be a few wee tweaks to how they're doing things, particularly against low blocks. Tony, against Aberdeen, it's coming up, not the weekend just passed, but the weekend before that. There was maybe a bit more space in behind at times because Aberdeen were pressing up rather than just sitting back like they did under Jim Goodwin. Against Ross County, you're at home, you're always going to be a bit more flexible. But in that game against Kilmarnock, as much as I should say they didn't put 10 men behind the ball the whole game, at times they felt they could probably get at Celtic, so they did press up a wee bit. But I think there's just got to be something different to try and break down low blocks. I'm not really... when it first happened, I was kind of interested to see how it would work, but I'm not really feeling the Kyogo sort of dropping back and being so involved in the build-up play that at times he's actually in Celtic's own half and chipping the ball back forward, Tony. And I should say, I know it is early days, right? But it's only 3 games in. But yesterday was an example of I didn't really see how it benefits Celtic to have Kyogo coming back so deep. There was a few times he actually got the ball and then attempted to play what would have been a really good pass in behind. But in my opinion, it should be somebody like, and I know he was off the park at that stage, but somebody like Home, etc., that should be playing that ball in behind to Kyogo. He shouldn't be the one that's trying to create the chances. There's maybe exceptions where it's fine if he drops back a wee bit. And I know Rodgers has spoken about in, various press conferences trying to get him more involved. That's fine, but I felt like that was kind of maybe to the extreme yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Kyogo's no used to 40 or 50 yards from your opposition goal, is he? What he was doing yesterday. He can't pass the ball to himself. Can't play a through ball to himself. And I get that. And Brendan Rodgers spoke about recycling the ball and finding pockets of space on Friday, didn't he? And telling you the way Celtic were kind of built up and set up. I've got to be honest, I listened to that, and whilst I was quite kind of content with it, I thought it gave away too much, in my opinion. And then I thought to myself, well, if that's the way you're going to play it, you're kind of telling managers how to stop that. This is, we try and find the space in behind it. I thought it at the time, and then I was just like, fair enough, because the last thing you expected was to go to Rugby Park and lose because you thought that you still get team capable of raising their game and quality players. But I remember thinking on Friday, okay, that's fine. It's all very well saying, we're set up to play fast attacking football and we'll do it with 2 wingers and stuff. But to go into the intricate details of how you set up, I was kind of like, all right, okay, well, right, we'll see where that goes. And I suppose hindsight's a great thing, but it did strike me at the time. But I don't made too much a deal about it. But I saw it in the evidence on Sunday where Celtic just could not exploit any space or any holes because Kilmarnock shut them all down. And even your flair players just couldn't, find space to function or operate. And also, I was never ever a lover of Kyogo playing 40 or 50 yards or getting involved in the build-up. But if that's what the manager wants, that's what the manager wants. But first and foremost, he's a goal scorer. And I don't think he had the ball once in his area, did he? Everything he did was out with the predatory area in the box where he's clinical. And I think he got one chance, and it was from a Kilmarnock mistake, wasn't it? Where he robbed the fullback and he ran in and he hit a shot from an angle, which the goalkeeper saved with his legs. But the reason he hit the shot from the angle was there was nobody alongside him to put it into the net. It's not as if he ran in and then there was others rushing in like Matt O'Reilly or even Thiago Holm or Mida Abada. There was nobody in the box as he ran in, so he took it himself. I think he tried to go for the nutmeg, the goalkeeper, from a tight angle, which is fair enough. I don't blame strikers for doing that, but I think the tweaks that have been made, it's okay when they work, but when they don't work, this is what happens. And Celtic didn't have a divine right to go to Kilmarnock and win yesterday. But I think all the questions are being asked about the ineptitude of the performance and how much the team had regressed. And I know they're in transition with a managerial philosophy, and we get all that. But those players should be good enough to go to Kilmarnock and win. But and I said it yesterday, you were watching a game yesterday and you were thinking, this isn't Celtic. Don't know what it is, but it's not Celtic. And I'm loath to hark back to the last manager. He has came and he has gone. And there's a style of play there that was implemented, was highly successful. It's been ripped up and they're going again under a new manager because every manager wants to put their stamp on their club and their team. That's fair enough. So, yeah, it was a successful template. It's now gone, so you have to get used to it. That you enjoyed it for those 2 years, but it's different now. But I still think that those same players, they know how to win football matches, and they've won many games like that in the past where they've dredged it out the fire and at the last minute and all that. So The habits should be the same. Just yesterday, everything went for a button, as they say. Just there was nothing there. I was not convinced at any time in that match, Aidan, that Celtic would score, and I was least convinced when Kilmarnock went ahead, and Celtic had a lot of time to retrieve the situation. But not once did I think Celtic will take this to extra time. I really didn't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Tony. As soon as Kilmarnock scored, you just kind of felt what's going to happen is Celtic might just pass the ball in front of the Kilmarnock back four in midfield for the remaining, whatever it was, 20, 25 minutes. And that's exactly what happened, unfortunately. In terms of, obviously it's a new team, and that's not a new team, sorry, a new blueprint and that for how they want to play. I completely understand manager wants to come in and implement his own ideas, but you know, this was not this team that he came into. As much as Jota's left, Starfelt's left, you know, Aaron Moy's retired, still plenty of quality players there. Yes, all three of those areas doing displaced. Hopefully, at least the centre backs that has been addressed. I know maybe they struggled a bit yesterday, but overall, hopefully, Navrosky and Lagerbielke or Lagerbielke, sorry, will both be really good signs. With Carter Vickers also hopefully coming back soon, but you know, this wasn't like when Ange first came in, you know, he inherited a bit of a mess. When Rodgers first came in 2016, the squad needed plenty of work on that done to it. Or not even the squad, but, you know, there was clearly things lacking in terms of the sort of environment he was coming into. This time the manager was coming into a team that's won a treble, a double the year before. That at one point last season, we were talking about potentially breaking all sorts of points records, etc. You know, it was very much a winning team that he came into inherit. And I appreciate once again a few players have left, and at least two of them anyway probably still need to be replaced. But I don't know if I quite agree with the manager. And it's easy to dissect everything after a defeat when you're obviously a bit frustrated. And I know the players, nobody would be more frustrated than the players and the manager. But I know what he's saying in terms of having to bring in more quality, and I agree with that. But I don't think I quite agree with that winners line, Tony. The team's already got plenty of guys in it that have won a lot.
Yeah.
I thought the way Brendan Rodgers was speaking, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, this is just my interpretation of what he was saying. He was kind of speaking as if he was coming in and having to conduct a massive rebuild. Do you know what I mean? That's not what Brendan Rodgers came in to take over. Do you know what I mean? It was a winning machine, all right, a winning formula. He wants to change his tactics. That's completely fine, and we expected that. We discussed that when it was linked when he first came in. When Ryan also spoke to sort of a content creator from Leicester City that was discussing his sort of time there. So we knew what we were getting in that regard. But I just thought some of those comments yesterday, and it's at a game in which you've just lost in the first round of the League Cup. So players and managers are going to maybe say things, and you can't really look too much into them, Tony. But I just thought that was a bit of a strange comment personally, the winners thing. I agree with his thing about quality. I think you need to bring at least a few more players in anyway to sort of develop the squad. But the team's full of winners that have won a lot. This was not a team you're inheriting like Ange did that had won nothing for the first time in 10 years. Do you know what I mean? I just thought that was a bit of a strange comment. And look, you know, it's probably I'm reading maybe a wee bit too much in it because it's just off, you know, having a microphone thrown in front of him 5-10 minutes after a really poor result. But I just didn't quite agree with what the manager was saying there. I don't know if you think I'm being too harsh, maybe, Tony, but I just thought that was a bit of a strange comment personally.
I think, as you say, it's all down to interpretation, isn't it? Sam Hart's commented from the content of the chat. Celtic fans are concerned that this wasn't just a one-off day, and it's much more worrying than that. I think that is the concern, isn't it? That it's maybe been coming, you know, because they haven't started the season all gun blazing. But it's, you know, you can throw all sorts of theories and, as you say, interpretation behind it. But I mean, did Rodgers not say in one of his early press conferences that Celtic were going to be a team that played with power? I'm sure he did. I didn't see any power yesterday at all. I didn't see much yesterday. I used the word last night that Celtic didn't have the gumption to break Kilmarnock down. That worried me, Aidan. It worried me greatly. That Celtic just didn't have the wherewithal and the gumption, or even just to retreat into the fact that they are quality players. Take a breather, you know, and just think about the situation. You're one down. You're chasing the game. play on instinct then. What did you used to do in these situations? How did it happen before? Because they are match winners. These guys don't need to be taught. They wrote the book on being match winners. So, just, but I didn't see anybody say, right, you know what, I'm going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck here. Because you can see the clock. There's a scoreboard that commands, so you know how long's left. It flashes in your whatever side you're on. You can see it. So, but nobody stood up to the plate yesterday in terms of leadership. And these are, as you said, match winners. So Celtic don't lack match winners. It isn't a rebuild. Celtic fans were saying before the window kicked off, we're 3 or 4 players short of being a good team. And I get it in perspective. Yet they've lost a match. It's not the end of the world, right? With the league, there's always the following week to, recoup points or following games over a 38-game season. You always have that if you lose a league game. But they are out of a cup competition, something that they've prided themselves on in recent years with a record in those competitions and getting to the latter stages. So, yeah, and it's a warning shot over the bow. And they have a massive 11 days. If Rodgers ever needed any ammunition to say to the board, I need quality, I need match winners, and I need them now, and I need them. Ryan was saying he needed them yesterday. So he's got 11 days to sort this out and see and say to the board, this is what I think my team needs moving forward. Can we facilitate this? And I still leave it up to the manager. But I think yesterday everybody was found wanting yesterday, and they came a cropper because of it. Don't know why they served up that abysmal performance. The inquest will go on. Brendan Rodgers said they'll stew over it for 24 hours and they'll move on. Well, they'll have to move on and they'll have to get better and quickly. End of story. What they've got St Johnstone on Saturday and then Rangers the following week, haven't they? So
yeah, on the 3rd of September,
on the 3rd of September.
Game, so yeah, the week after that.
And if you thought there was some kind of meltdown going on after losing to Kilmarnock, can you imagine how much it will be magnified and multiplied if Celtic go to Ibrox and get turned over? Not saying that's going to happen. A lot can happen between now and the Ibrox game because there's still, as I say, lots of time in the transfer window to do business. So you have, first kind of real test of the season when you were up against it and you're fallen by the wayside in a cup competition. So now the manager has to say to the board, well, this is what I need moving forward. I need help to take you where you want to go in terms of, lots of Celtic fans are now saying they're dreading the prospect of Europe in the Champions League. I would never dread the prospect of Europe in the Champions League because I just think the atmosphere and the attitude will be so different. But I think it's fair to say they need personnel, don't they? The transfer window so far has been, for want of a better word, underwhelming.
Yeah, I completely agree, Tony, and I think you can understand why some fans are maybe feeling a bit of trepidation about the Champions League because last year there was wee positives, but overall probably was a bit frustrating, and the squad felt in a lot better place, or the team looked in a lot better place, even though they're still pointing at the same players there. It's just not. It's just a result that they could have been doing without, and I understand what you're saying in terms of hopefully this will encourage a bit more investment in the squad. But it shouldn't take going out of cups to do that. Once again, I'll repeat, the club have got all sorts of resources at their disposal in terms of being able to bring players in. Champions League money last year, money from Jota, all right, maybe we're not privy to exactly how much that is, but it was 25 million. I'd imagine they were breaking in at least 15, 16 million of that, if not more. And that on top of the money it will be coming in as well from the Champions League this summer, or this season, sorry. There really was no excuse for why Celtic couldn't be going out and investing heavily in this window. We knew it was needed in advance. A goalkeeper, as much as Joe Hart wasn't at fault yesterday, just that's an ongoing issue. Nothing really go to do with the game against Kilmarnock. we knew probably somebody was another winger would have to be brought in. Probably, as you're saying, maybe a bit of a destroyer in the middle of the park, maybe a full-back, someone maybe argue a left and a right-back with Alistair Johnson being out injured. And it's just the fact that it's not been done so far when you're now getting to the end of the window is overall quite disappointing, I think, personally. But at the same token, of course, you still have more than enough to go and beat Kilmarnock down there. Plenty of players that have been there, done it before, as you were pointing out, that have sort of dug in deep in games, particularly cup games, where it's maybe been a bit tight over the last few years. So yeah, really disappointing overall, Tony. And fingers crossed, sort of they can get their act together in terms of both recruitment and on the field over the next week or so.
Yeah, I'm trying to temper it with some realism in the fact that it was one game, but it's a bitterly disappointing game to lose. But it is one game out of 3 in the first 3 games of the season. I'm not one for, I try not to be one for knee-jerk and overreaction. I think it was just the manner of the display. You know, it was insipid. And I don't think the Celtic supporters can't get over that. I could accept if they went down to Kilmarnock and pummeled them, hit the post, hit the bar, and you came up against an inspired goalkeeper. I could accept that, and losing to, a breakaway goal or whatever. But we just lost to a hungrier team in the third game of the season down at Rugby Park when, you have plenty of match winners in the squad and everybody, I think it was, 8 of the starting 11 were there from the previous 2 seasons. Only Lager Bielka, Home, and
Navrowski.
Narovsky were not. So the rest of the guys should be able to cope with that. I get that Kilmarnock beat Rangers in the first game, but it was quite a similar game, wasn't it? Because I don't think Rangers troubled the Kilmarnock goalkeeper either in the first game of the season. But that's by and by. But it was just kind of similar. So you knew you were in a game before you even travelled down there. So don't know what happened. It's just one of life's great inexplicables that Celtic supporters are left scratching their head, and the worst performance people saying in years. I agree with that. Plunge McNugget saying Brendan must realise the performance was unacceptable. Of course it's unacceptable, which is why you're sitting here poring over it, and the more you talk about it, the more you get annoyed. You have to move forward and you have to see some improvement St Johnstone, and hopefully by the time it comes to the St Johnstone game, you might even see some fresh personnel, even some new players, give everybody a lift, the kind of players that Brendan Rodgers wants to take it forward and to make sure that Celtic are more than equipped for what's coming up now.
Yeah, fingers crossed, Tony. I mean, like I say, once again, it's one of those ones, really. Any players that the manager wanted by now probably should have been in, and you were looking to just add 1 or 2, whereas it feels like you're coming near the end of the transfer window and suddenly you're looking potentially for 4 or 5 plus players, which is probably unlikely. So if that's the case, then you would feel maybe the squad's been left a bit short. But yeah, fingers crossed there'll be some new faces in for the St Johnstone game. But yeah, it was just really frustrating yesterday. And the lack of creation, as you're saying, the lack of penetration, Kyogo coming so deep, that not working. I mean, the only chance I can really remember after Kilmarnock scored was the one that Yang had that just kind of went over.
Yeah,
it was a wee bit unlucky, but that
actually.
was the only time there was a wee bit of movement in the box and a chance created, which when you're chasing a goal in a cup game is not ideal. As you say, you can accept as much as you would still be frustrated if it was hundreds of shots, the keeper was playing well, you were hitting the post, it was chance after chance, and then you just lose 1 goal on the counter attack or whatever. But that's not what that game was yesterday. It was very much slow and ponderous until Kilmarnock scored, and then after Kilmarnock scored, really frustrating as well as being slow and ponderous. So yeah, not great, and I don't think it's been helped by some players having a bit of a rough start to the season. Callum McGregor, Greg Taylor. I know you and Ryan touched on both players yesterday, and there's been pieces written about both in terms of how they've kind of maybe struggled at the beginning of the campaign. That doesn't help, but at the same token, despite all this and everything we're saying, Celtic, who were so successful last year and the year before, plenty of players in there that have won numerous trophies, you should still be able to go down to Kilmarnock and get the job done. And the fact that didn't happen off the back of maybe 2 performances against Ross County and Aberdeen, where the results were good, as we said at the time, but the performances were still lacking. Understandably, is going to lead fans to having cause for concern ahead of the transfer window shutting, the Rangers game, and also the Champions League?
Well, I'm hopefully writing it off to a bad day at the office, Aidan. I don't want what Rich Rav says, in comes the panic buys. No, I certainly don't want that. I still want Celtic to go about and do their due diligence with players, even in the 11 days that are left. But I always thought that the last few days of the transfer window would be hectic as well. So we shall see if that prophecy is borne out, Aidan. What we do know is Celtic need some new players, quality players at that. What I also know is that Celtic are out of the League Cup. Kilmarnock won, Celtic now. And what I do know is that they have to move on and deal with the St Johnstone game as it comes. Paddy's not liking it either. He's upset that Celtic are out of the League Cup. Guys, maybe not read so many of the comments today, but I was trying to keep my eye on them. Probably some infiltrators, as you can imagine, after a poor result. So I was always wary they kind of flash up and they go quite quickly. So I didn't want to flash the wrong comment up, but we will address that moving forward, and we'll read out more of your comments as the weeks and days go by. But yeah, an unhappy Monday, Aidan. Can't dress it up any other way. We hope that this week brings some better cheer, some better news as they head to the St Johnstone game. Things can only get better, as they say, Aidan. Thanks for joining us. Thanks as always for joining us, guys, in the comment section. There's nearly 600 people watching live as well. Sorry about the dogs. Just going off on that at every slight thing now, but there you have it. That's the way of the world. Guys, and if I can ask you, if you enjoy the briefings, we urge you to subscribe to the website. We do it every day. You help us by subscribing. We're able to put these briefings on for you every day of the week. And if you subscribe to the Celtic Way, you also help support top quality football journalism, covering the club you love in the process. And there's all sorts of things on the website for everybody. You just click of a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the John Hartson 5 Celtic moments. There'll be another one from another ex-player coming up, Aidan. Won't give too much away, but we'll reveal that in the fullness of time. If you haven't, check that out on the YouTube channel, John Hartson's Top 5 Celtic Moments, if you want him cheering up on an unhappy Monday. But Aidan, thank you for your contribution. Stellar as always. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Tony. Always a pleasure.
Take care. All the best.